Steve, you'd have been great at lacrosse if you played it. Unstoppable.
They didn't have it in Ansonia.
It's a newish thing. All right, let's get to the closeout situation for Indiana. Dame Lillard out for a couple of games with the Achilles injury. He's going to give the team what he can. Doc said that Giannis had a great workout, was getting closer, but couldn't go in this one. Early on, Lillard. And it's an early 7-point lead from three. Again, an early 7-point lead. But now the Pacers are up, and TJ McConnell gets the steal. Tyrese Haliburton in transition. Pacers up by 6. Second quarter, Pacers up 8. Andrew Nembhard completely all alone, and he buries that three. It's an 11-point lead. Pacers shot 54% in this series. That's the thing about this team, man. They are bucket getters. Haliburton crashes, gets his own board, and gets the bucket. Here it's three the hard way on the attack. He had 15 first-half points, tied for the most points he'd had in the half this season, and it's a 12-point lead at the half. Bench points coming from Obi and TJ McConnell in this series, and they were even bigger in this one. Toppin. All three of these, 13-point lead. Nembhard with a steal. And what a find to Toppin, who's so lethal in transition. Lead is 11 at this point. Toppin, 21 through 3 quarters, already a career playoff high. And McConnell could do no wrong in this. You gonna let him have it? I mean, again, these guys are nude from three.
They violate the three-point line.
They did. It's a fun team, fun atmosphere. It's scary, man. Whoever gets them in the next round better be ready to guard. See McConnell and Toppin, the first duo to each score 20 or more off the bench in the same game in playoff history for the Pacers. Bucks were hanging around. You knew they'd be hard to get rid of, but now it's a 17-point lead, and that's a wrap. As we get down to the end of it, somebody's whooping at Patrick Beverley. He throws the ball at Beverley, and Beverley whips it back at him. His teammates have got to step in, and we know that that's a ferocious competitor. I don't know what was said, but you can't be whipping a ball at somebody in the front row. Rick Carlisle on his team moving on and knocking out Milwaukee.
It's so difficult to win a playoff series. You know, you talk about getting to the playoffs, and it's like in college when you have a really good team and you talk about getting to the Final Four, and then all of a sudden just getting to the Final Four is kind of, you know, where your expectation was. You've got to think bigger than that. And, you know, I've said for 2 years now, you know, we're a franchise with big dreams. The thing I love about our team is that, you know, we're a true team. You know, we've got some great individual players, but we're a group that needs each other. And I think it's something that the people of Indianapolis and the state of Indiana can get behind.
I thought everybody just played the right way. I thought Obi came in and played with unbelievable energy. TJ's energy was amazing. Our bench's energy was just, it was flowing the whole game, honestly. And I mean, at the end of the day, the 2 games we lost in this series, they dictated the pace. And the games that we won, we dictated it. So we just knew that we were going to have to come out and be aggressive. And whether that, I think their switching kind of slowed us down in Game 5. And we didn't wait to see what they were going to do. It didn't really matter what they were going to do. We just attacked.
All right, let's do our research on the Pacers, who win their first playoff series since 2014 when they beat the Wizards to advance to the conference finals. It snaps a run of 6 consecutive playoff series defeats, which had been the longest streak in the NBA. It's a team that can score a lot, and they've got a bunch of guys that can get them. 6 players in double figures Thursday, including a pair of 20-point efforts off the bench. Indy led the league in bench scoring this season. They closed out the Bucks by outscoring them 50-10 off the bench in Game 6. You just heard from the unquestioned leader of this group. It's Tyrese Haliburton, who dropped 17 and 10 in a closeout performance. And in doing so, he joins Mark Jackson as the only players in Pacers history with 3 double-digit assist games in a single series. Pleasure to welcome Austin Rivers back. When you were on last night, I said, let's do it again, and we're going to run it back tonight. And this Pacers team impressed me, Austin, because in that last game on the road against Milwaukee, they didn't have like maybe a mature performance, right? You don't want to let this team get back in it, because if you do and they get healthy, then you could be in big trouble. What did they show you in this closeout performance as they are able to put the Bucks to bed?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway from Game 6 was their depth. That's been an issue for Milwaukee, if we're going to talk specifically them all year. We live in an era of social media where we're always grabbing headlines. We talk Brunson and Embiid. We talk Haliburton and Dame back for Game 6. But we don't talk about the other guys, the other three players on the floor, right? The other players that have come off the bench, because it's usually a 7-8 rotation in the playoffs. These guys scored 50 points off the bench compared to the Bucks 10. They got outscored by 40 points. That's just too large of a margin to make up, especially when you don't have Giannis out there. You need scoring from other guys. You needed 15 from Malik Beasley or from this guy or Chris Middleton to go for another monster game. But when you get 50 bench points coming off the bench, Haliburton can have 17, 16 and still get a victory. They showed their depth tonight. They showed their pace. Big-time win for the Pacers.
Pace is the key word. Haliburton talked about it. He said the games they lost, the Bucks had at their pace. Indiana, just as their name would imply, right? They're just better at playing that style, which is the most fun style to play. I don't care if it's pickup or a real game. I said on the podcast with my guy Stanford Steve the other day, Austin, this Pacers team is fun for sure. But I ask you, are they a threat?
I don't think they're a serious threat. I think they're a team that could be I think they're a competitive enough team to where they can make it competitive to the Knicks or Philly. Specifically Philly, just due to Embiid and his injuries, and at the pace that the Pacers play, it would be kind of an issue for Joel Embiid to play at that pace with all the injuries that he's garnering right now. With that being said, the Knicks and Philadelphia are both superior teams. Jalen Brunson, in my opinion, is the best guard in the Eastern Conference. I don't think anybody has anything to say about that. And right behind him would be Tyrese Maxey. I think both of them, in my opinion, are at this point better players than Haliburton. I haven't seen that consistent play. And just to say something about Haliburton, he's a fantastic player, no doubt. But you look from All-Star break, it's been a difference since the first half of the season till now. For him and that team to be competitive, to beat a Bucks or Knicks, they need him to be a star player, the USA player that they named on that team. They need him to have much bigger, more dynamic games for them to be competitive and let alone win the series, in my opinion.
I get it. My only counter to that is this, Austin. And this time of year, I don't care whether it's you see it in NCAA tournament games, and certainly you see it in NBA games. Can you get buckets? When you have to get buckets, can you make shots? I know that's super simplistic, but they shot 54% in this game. This is a team that can make shots. And at some point, you're going to have to stop the other team from making shots. I just wonder, when I'm talking threat, I just think their ability to score it makes them I wouldn't want to play them, I guess is all I'm saying. But you just feel like whoever's up next is better.
I do. Okay. And they can score the ball, but they struggle stopping the ball. And in the playoffs, you got to get stops as well. And, if we're talking putting the ball in the basket consistently, I think both teams have guys who can put the ball better in the basket than anybody on Indianapolis in terms of Brunson or Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey for that matter. Yep. But I do like the pace that they play in. But the playoffs sometimes tends to slow down. It's very hard to consistently control a pace throughout a playoff series. So I don't know. I have them being competitive. I just don't have them beating the Knicks or the Philadelphia 76ers. Not
trying to change your mind. I hear what you're saying. I think they're fun to watch, and they're on the come up anyway. And now they've won a playoff series, and they'll get a chance to play another one. Austin, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you. A lot baked into it, but it's over before anyone thought it would be. The Bucks entered the season with massive expectations, co-favorites to win the title at +400 along with Boston. While the Celtics dismantled the Heat in 5 games, the Bucks suffer a first-round exit for the second consecutive season. They fired first-year head coach Adrian Griffin after a 30-13 start, at which point they had the second-best record in the East. Doc Rivers took over straight from our booth, goes 19-23 the rest of the way, including the playoffs. As a result, the Bucks become the first team with a first-round exit in consecutive seasons as the higher-seeded team since the Clippers in 2016-17, who were also coached by Doc Rivers. Milwaukee the first to do it as a top 3 seed in both seasons since the late 90s Miami Heat. As for the offseason outlook, the core mostly locked up. Giannis 4 years, over $200 million left on his deal. Dame under contract for 3. Milwaukee's got the 21st pick in the draft. The Pelicans have the right, though, to swap from the Drew Holiday trade. Sometimes at the end of these, you're supposed to give some thought on what happened. Well, it's over, and they didn't have Giannis. You lose a two-time MVP, you lose Dame Lillard for a couple of games. What else was going to happen? This. Giannis, we gave you the contract numbers. As for his age, he turns 30 early next season, so he's hardly old, but they didn't get anything out of this one. And it is going to look pretty odd when they look back at it in the rear view. As Doc said after he took over midseason, more difficult than I thought. After this injury and first-round exit, it's also a whole lot earlier than anyone thought as well.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA on the ESPN.